Welcome to Conversations and Coffee, where we have conversations that are authentic, lighthearted, and purposeful. Our conversations will be engaging. You will hear from industry experts that will have you saying, "Whoa, wow, I didn't know that." Join us because it's all about you, your loved ones, and anyone who want to stay informed and, of course, living your best life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations and Coffee. I'm Dr. Joy, the host of this show. I'm glad you are here eavesdropping on the conversation today because we have with us Linda McKenna. She is an owner, along with her husband, of a senior placement business called Golden Rule Senior Placement Services. Miss McKenna loves what she does. She has spent many years working with families, trying to help them find assisted living placements for their loved ones. Miss McKenna's job is a hard one, yet it's a caring one. Her job is all about seniors, their families, and ensuring that families feel they are not alone when making choices that will affect their senior loved ones during their golden years. Speaking of that word, golden, that word is the name of her business, Golden Rule Senior Placement Services. I love this name. I think about the saying, do unto others as you will have them do unto you. That's the golden rule. And that is what Miss McKenna does. I want to give Miss McKenna an opportunity to expand on who she is, what she does, and why her job is important to you, to your family, or anyone that may need help with transitional care for seniors. So wherever you're tuning in, get your coffee like I have mine. And Linda, do you have yours? Then let's get started with this conversation. Okay, Linda, I've told our eavesdroppers just a snippet of information about who you are. Why don't you continue your bio by telling us more about the job that you do in your community as a senior care placement owner?
First of all, Dr. Joy, thank you. This is such an honor to be with you today. One of the esteemed leaders in our community, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with our various future clients. And for those that are really, how I want to say, navigating and going through a very overwhelming time in their lives with their senior loved ones. So thank you so much. You gave my bio very well. It's been after 25 years that I was in healthcare administration, that being in home health, as well as hospice, that I decided upon venturing out in my own business and spreading my wings. And it was on the time that I was also transitioning my parents to a different part of their life, their different chapter. My dad is going to be, next month is going to be 99.
Oh my
and
gosh, wow.
We call him the Bionic Man.
Yes.
And my mother's 87. They're a wonderful couple. They're very vim and vigor. They do have their mindset, but they needed a little bit more medical overview. So at that point in time, living alone in their senior community, they realized that they needed much more oversight. So that's what we ended up doing, was going to assisted living. Where both of my parents were able to still prosper, thrive, interact, and actually have a very glorious life. Wonderful. I have to say, you had to make appointments with them, Dr. Joy, in order to see them. They were very, very active.
Well, that is wonderful, because that's what we want, our seniors to be active.
Absolutely. And I know how overwhelming it is. It's very emotional because think about it this way. My dad is a Navy veteran from World War II, lieutenant commander. So the man knows how to give orders, does not how to take them. But he was ready. He was really ready to move on. And at that point in time is to prosper better than what he was doing. My mother was a little bit more reluctant. She's 12 years younger and always the head of household, meaning taking care of things. Now somebody's going to be taking care of me. So it was difficult, but also going through the years of memories packed away. May it be photos, may it be keepsakes. Well, I sat down with my parents and said, this is the time that you could see your children enjoy your keepsakes. If it's packed away for later years, you're not utilizing. And when they had that fresh perspective, it was different. But also at the same things I have told them, and I tell this to my clients, those memories will always be there because it's here and here. Those are material things. So those things, yes, they can be replaced. Yes, they do have a significant point in our lives, but at the same time, it's only things. It's not precious lives are at stake. So that's
what I really, way that you said that when you gave them a different type of perspective, because what happens is they don't want to give up their stuff. And they're like, where my stuff have to go? So with you saying that you and your siblings would keep up with that for them, I think that was a great way to help them understand.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Joy. And, you know, at that point in time, when I realized I was going it through with them, I know it personally, and then I know it professionally. I thought, you know what, this is a time that I need to be a little bit more educated. I did, go to a lot of Alzheimer's classes, so I know the approach that way with families. Mm-hmm. But I also became a certified assisted living administrator. Okay. Not with any intention to run assisted living, with the intentions of knowing the rules and regulations that are still behind them. So with that being said, that's when I opened November in 2017. I opened Golden Rule, and thank you for pointing that out. And the reason why I call Golden Rule, we treat our seniors just the way we want to be treated ourselves. They're our most precious generation, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. It's an honor to work with a lot of our seniors, and we have a lot of veterans that we work with. Just listening to stories, I get goosebumps and I get teared up, and hearing what presence that they had in the past that they could, parlay over to us, that we could be better people. Yeah. That is a generation that is not forgotten, but they are different. They are special. So that's when I opened up. It was during Thanksgiving time, because that's one of my very special holidays, to be thankful for what we have. Mm-hmm. And it's been a very hard journey because of during COVID, but it's been very rewarding because a lot of times we couldn't visit our clients at home, or we couldn't be there in presence during their journey as well too, and transitioning because of COVID restrictions. But we muddled through and we did it.
Yes, like we all did. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. I don't exempt Dr. Joy. Yes, maybe my primary focus is assisted living, but I do refer quite a bit to in-home care agencies. Mm-hmm. And I say agencies for the very reason, which I'll get into, but and in home health. Mm-hmm. I believe in home health as well, because sometimes part of the transitioning, staying in place, sometimes you really just need your activities of daily living being a little bit more emphasized. Yes. So it takes a doctor's orders to get that, and I'm very influential when it comes to that, to making that happen. But home care, I only, and I emphasize that, _, recommend licensed, bonded, and insured companies. Yes. Not the lady down the street who seems to be a nice lady. Yeah. There is, unfortunately, here in Florida, mm-hmm. but across the United States, our seniors are exploited on a regular basis.
Very much so.
We want to make sure that they are protected. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say not taken advantage of, but getting the right services that they do.
Yes, deserve. I totally understand that. And some people have great intentions, but going with a company that, like you said, licensed, bonded, and have all the credentials that they need to have in order to service that senior is the best route to go.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And as you talked about your bio and the things that you do and how you really got into it just from your own experience, that is a wonderful way to help other seniors. So let's kind of jump into transitional care. What are types of transitional care?
And depending on the status of the individual, if the individual is living home alone, and like I have one now that I'm working with, and the whole family is out of state, and we're noticing from the medical review and their history and physical and progress notes from the doctor, it's kind of imminent. This is a gentleman that lives in a 3,600 square foot home, alone, and no family around. So no oversight, no advocacy when they go into the hospitals, wherever that journey might take them. But at the same token, nutrition is important. That's not happening at home because we're depending on neighbors to bring nutritious meals. He is a sliding scale insulin patient. So guess what? Nutrition is very, very important.
Very much.
Being very sedentary, that he's sitting all day, we now have pitted edema in the lower extremities. So he has a chance of falling very, very primary. But also stimulation. Yes, the man has dementia, and we want to make sure that he doesn't elope out of the home, drive anywhere, walk off to anywhere, whatever his mind tells him. But stimulation on a daily basis, maybe having a conversation with somebody, or actually not watching TV. Please, today watching TV is more depressing than it can be.
Too much of it.
Yeah, it is. It's an overload.
Social media, all of that. Too much.
Exactly. So, the stimulation may be a conversation, little games, flashcards, whatever that it may be. So I'm telling the family, that lives way out of state, is that in-home care is necessary right now. And what hours are necessary? Well, guess what? 24. Because, dad might get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, lose his footing because of his edema. So you saying, oh, well, he's sleeping at night, we really don't need anybody there. Well, there's chances of elopement. There's sundowners. These are the guides that I go through, is that honestly, Dr. Joy, it is, I say, the 4 pillars of needs. Is number one, it used to always be medical first. And quite honest with you, I kind of flipped it now because it's financial first, because you have to be able to afford care to make sure the next steps are covered, that being medically. Then social and spiritual. Just because you are not doing what your social activities were before, the onset of an illness, maybe a death of a spouse, or you're incapacitated, being at home, you can't physically get around, we had the COVID restrictions, doesn't mean that somebody cannot participate in any social activities. There's very, creative ways of doing that. And spiritual, again, we were all kept from our place of worship. May it be church, services or synagogue, the mosque, whatever that it may be, we still have faith. And our faith is in our higher being. And to be kept away from that during those, precious times of COVID was very difficult. Yes. Again, there's creative ways of doing that as well, too. So with having at least in-home care come in the very beginning stages for this gentleman, and at least it's helping him transition to the inevitable next steps, is obviously moving out of this 3,600 square foot home, maybe closer to his children, out of state in Chicago, or maybe just temporary locally here so the family could get some of his house for sale and go through all the mountain of stuff before maybe they move him on closer to them. So it gives the family a little bit of assistance. I just say, Dr. Joy, don't wait until it's imminent, because then you have less choices and it becomes more and more difficult for that loved one to really enjoy those four pillars,
Yes, yes. I'm glad that you mentioned that because just wrote it down. Your four pillars of need. Um, that is awesome to just explain that to the family, because I believe that they need to know that even though mom or dad may not live near you, you still need to be aware that they have these needs, and let's try to help them. In Florida, we have snowbirds and we have lots of them. And so the families that live up north or, out of the country or wherever they're living, they need to have someone like you to be able to explain these things and say what type of care that they need. So with this gentleman, you stated he needed in-home care first to kind of figure it out. So that's a type of transitional care. What are some others other than the in-home care that they have options to decide on?
In moving into assisted living, they think that's their final destiny. Okay, so
I don't know why. When you say it, it's like assisted living, like I am going to eternal death or something.
Thank you for saying it that way. And I think it's the preconceived notion it's a nursing home. In fact, I just did a video talk on that. A nursing home is skilled nursing facility. Yes, there is a rehab section, yes, which is only short term, and then there is a long-term section.
Yes.
Granted, that's because of financials or medical needs that have, really expounded upon. But assisted living, like I said with my parents, you have to make an appointment with them. There's a very active lifestyle now that COVID has kind of diminished, or we're slowly opening our doors.
Yes.
There is lots of activities to pick from. I don't think everybody should be the social bell and do everything that's on the calendar that day, within reason. Give you an idea. My dad had more medical needs than he did have memory impaired needs, but this is a man that drove a ship, very much in control. I mean, quite honest with you, even he had an office in his home up until he moved out to 96, 4 laptops. I can't even begin to tell you. Very vibrant, because he felt that if you think you know everything, he told this to my 2 children, if you think you know everything, the brain is a sponge. Just when you think you know it all, squeeze it out and absorb some more. Read books every day. That's what kept my dad mindset, vim and vigor. So going into an assisted living and, going into a section that was more for care needs was hard on him, because he's like, what kind of conversations am I going to have with these people? They don't do what I do, that kind of stuff. So it took up to the activities director, myself, to say, these are the things, but if you put my dad in charge of things, guess what? You're going to have a totally different Glenn. So of course I have them on my phone, and I see the ALF call me one day, and I'm like, oh, you take that deep breath, like, oh, okay. And I'm only 8 miles away. And I'm like, okay, so it's Lisa, the activities director. And she says, oh, I just wanted to tell you what your dad did today. And I'm like, what? And she goes, he came to bingo. I'm like, right. She thinks that's foolish. She goes, no, not only did he come to bingo, he ran it. It's the way you approach our senior population. Don't forget, they've been there, they've done that. And what they think is silly in nature, like playing bingo or some, flashcards or a thing of that, give them that credit and give them that honor of explaining, hey, you're not needing it, but I need you to help me. It's same thing with redirecting behavior with children. So my dad ran the bingo. He called the cards and, directed everything. Then we started doing Name That Tune, and he directed that too. History lessons, he directed that too. And guess what? The last thing was running his, the drum circle, because he was giving orders, Dr. Joy. It was boom, boom, boom. And they had his direction, but it made them my dad come out in a different type of personality. He is outgoing to a certain extent, and it's based on his intelligence. That's what I try to tell people, is that transitioning is difficult. It is so difficult. So the perceived notion going into a facility, giving up, oh my God, this is my last steps. It's not a nursing home. It's a quality of life. There's things that you could pick from that you may enjoy, but more importantly, nothing is forever. With assisted living, it's a contract every 30 days, it renews. So if something is not to their liking or whatever, you just have to give a 30-day notice. But sometimes I suggest, why don't you do it respite? Just try it out. And, like we spoke about, Dr. Joy, is you do a lot of investigation when you buy your first home, and you do, a lot of, seeking out when you purchase your first car. Any big things that we do in our lives, and planning ahead, and investments, or having a family, it's with a lot of intellect and a lot of studying and a lot of research. Why wouldn't you do that?
But what I want to say to that is, why wouldn't they do it? Is because I think they just don't know. Correct. So avenues or resources like what we're doing here today.
Yes.
And getting it out there and letting them know transitional care. This is what transitional care is. This is what you need to do. Then I think that will help them then understand that assisted living, it's not all bad. You have these things going on in assisted living communities. And when you do these things, then I think their choices will be different. If they don't know, you don't know. And you always feel scared, like, oh no, I don't want to go there. But as soon as you find out, for an example, for myself, when deciding that this was something that we wanted to do, we're in home care, and we service senior living communities where assisted living is in the communities that we serve. We have independent, you have assisted, you have memory care, and all of those other skilled care. But the thing about it is, I didn't have no idea what assisted living was. So I had to do my research just like you. I had to take that core class just like you, and, and pass that test in order to feel like, okay, I now know policy procedure. I know what really goes on. And it's not, seniors. Let me tell you, seniors, if you're out there listening, it is not as bad as you think it is. It's really good. And you still live a great life. So I'm so glad you're getting this opportunity to explain. You've explained in-home care, you've explained assisted living care. So what I want to know, are there any other types of care that you would explain to families as you talk to them about transitioning their parents to a different way of living?
Yes. Thank you. A lot of people will go ahead and try to do this on their own, or use an online service. And I'm not saying an online service is not appropriate. Some people don't know what they're doing when they're pushing the buttons on the computer, and they automatically get involved. You don't know, like what you just said, you don't know until you visit. Doing tours, but working with a senior professional like yourself, Dr. Joy, and myself, thank you for including me in that, is the fact that we know the rules, the regulations, the certain type of licensure of these communities. I just had a client reach out to me by another colleague, and again, he was in the Brandon area, and my dad needs this, needs that. And I said, okay, let's get in touch and let's navigate it. Well, she jumped the gun, and she moved her dad into an independent standalone facility. So a lot of people don't understand where licensure becomes very, very pertinent in even the beginning stages, or as they age in place. When you're in a standalone independent living facility, You really shouldn't have assisted devices. You shouldn't have memory care issues. You shouldn't have dietary issues. You shouldn't have a lot of comorbidities. Why? Is because their license is one step above a hotel license. There's no medical on board. This is what I try to explain to people, that there is a lot of transitional care, but picking the right one is essential. Again, we do a lot of research. We're purchasing a new car, purchasing a home. This is a life we're talking about. So is there room for making mistakes? It should be minimal. So besides independent living that's standalone, there's also independent within senior living communities. I hate the word facilities when it comes
Me
to
too. I'm glad you said that.
I
Like
hate
I don't like facility, because automatically when you say facility to a senior, they're like, nope, don't want to go there. But if you say community, oh, well, what is that about?
and it's communal living, which is nice. So we now have to call it EFC instead of ELF, you know. So we want to look at, if you're on the beginning stages of dementia or you have comorbidities, yes, maybe going in independent is suffices. Now you're able to do a lot of your ADLs, which is activities of daily living. But the next step is assisted, and the next step is memory care. So you can age in place within the same, structure of a building, brick and mortar.
Yeah.
But there's also residential care homes and adult family care communities. What those are: residential homes, maybe in a residential community like where we all live. They don't have big signs outside because it's a home. They are licensed just the same. They're overseen by ACA, which is our healthcare administration, which is important because that's how outcomes and quality
Yes.
is being
Monitored.
relayed every day.
Yes.
Not a governing power when it comes to that. So residential care homes are wonderful. It might be the step, before moving out of state, to be with a family like this gentleman I was just talking about. Why move into a large entity when he needs spot on care more than anything else? You don't have to decorate it. They're decorated already. They have all the conveniences. You have your own room. They're quite affordable, but you're getting quite a bit of care because it's more one-on-one, the ratio is. So the transitional care is important to consider. Having worked for hospice as well, a lot of people think, oh my God, that's not transitional care. Oh, yes, it is. There's palliative care. Palliative care is maybe not end stage of your disease process, maybe Alzheimer's, maybe it is COPD, which is a pulmonary disease. Maybe it's cardiac disease, that it's not end stage, but it is really depleting your energy each day and your ability to prosperously live. So there's palliative care. So that's transitional care as well. And that could be provided in a home, that could be provided in assisted living in conjunction with in-home care as well, because more spot on care, more hands on our seniors, no matter what time of their life, is essential.
Yes.
Is essential.
Very much so.
You deserve it.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining it like that. So I hope our eavesdroppers out there, I hope you're listening. We are getting some good information from Miss McKenna, and we are really moving along, just letting you know what it's all about, because what we don't want you to do is not have the knowledge. So we are giving it to you today. So as we move on, Linda, let's talk about now you have had the conversation with the family and they are all in based on the information you have given them. They have chosen, okay, this is where I want mom, dad to now reside or transition to. But that senior loved one, when you start to have that conversation with them, the stigma associated with transitional care is still lingering in their with them. It's not something that they're saying, yeah, let's go. They're not saying that. How do you convince a family that is on the fence that this is the care that they need? And when you convince them, what are the next steps? Join us next week for part 2. If you are loving the conversation, share this audio and video podcast with someone else. We want you eavesdropping on the conversation. Remember, you're listening to Conversations and Coffee with Dr. Joy.